Hi everyone, my name is Lydia Badudankwa, and you're welcome to my presentation for Lead 703, that is Organizational Theory and Behavior. Now, the content of today's presentation is as follows. We have the introduction, the recent research in the theory, and before we proceed, my presentation is going to be about the self-determination theory. And we are going to look at the current trends, debates, and gaps of the theory. Also, we'll look at the relevance and the applicability of the theory and areas for further research. And then we'll also discuss 3 articles that I featured in my presentation. Then we'll look at the conclusion. And to the overview of self-determination theory, the self-determination theory was developed by Deci and Ryan, and it posits that individuals have innate psychological needs for autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and that is the satisfaction of these needs to be crucial for intrinsic motivation, well-being, and optimal functioning. By this, the SDT, as I call it, is a prominent theory of human motivation, and it has continued to evolve and expand its influence across various domains, including organizational behavior. So, going forward, these are my articles that I'm going to analyze when we get to a later part in the presentation. You can see the first article, second, and the third. And the first article was by Rosley et al. 2022. Its topic is self-determination theory and online learning in university, advancements, future direction, and research gaps. The second article was by de Klerk et al. And it was published in 2023, and the topic is a self-determination theory perspective on how autonomy, supportive, and chaotic leadership relate to volunteers' need-based experiences and turnover intentions, a variable-centered and person-centered approach. So the third and the last would be Fauna et al. 2020. And the topic is motivating workers, how leaders apply self-determination theory in organizations. And moving forward, we are going to move straight to the current trends of the self-determination theory. And when it comes to the current trends, we have workplace motivation and remote work. And with this, with the rise of remote work, organizations are leveraging self-determination theory principles to foster autonomy, competence, and relatedness in virtual environments. Also, companies are shifting focus from external rewards, that is bonuses, and to intrinsic motivators like purpose-driven work and flexible schedules. The second one, when it comes to mental health and well-being, SDT is increasingly used in positive psychology to explain how fulfilling basic psychological needs reduce stress and burnout. It is also applied in therapy, coaching, to boost self-motivation and resilience. For education and learning, schools and e-learning platforms are using SDT to design autonomy supportive curricula and enhance student engagement. Educational apps integrate SDT by rewarding intrinsic learning behaviors instead of just grades. And lastly, we have the AI and digital transformation. Current research explores how AI-driven tools can enhance autonomy and competence while avoiding over-reliance on technology. And next is some ongoing debates and gaps for SDT. So the ongoing debates relate to complexity of leadership styles, Actually, I went through and got these debates and gaps from the articles I showed you earlier on. That is the 3 articles I'll be analyzing soon. And the debates are complexity of leadership styles, need-based frameworks, diversity and inclusion, the relative importance of the 3 basic needs, the nuances of extrinsic motivation, and then issues with measurement. And then when it gets to gaps where SDT is concerned, it is underexplored. The knowledge in SDT is underexplored when it comes to certain dimensions. And geographical representations are not, I think, adequately covered. Certain geographical representations are not known. And so generalizing the findings of such articles are a bit skeptical, not really like accepted. And then empirical validation is also low. Methodological concerns have also been like spoken about, because most of these research in the field are quantitative. Meanwhile, it will be actually very beneficial to have more studies talking about the qualitative aspects of the theory. Limited research in diverse contexts, and most of the studies are longitudinal. So these are the gaps and debates that are currently going on where the theory is concerned. And then the relevance and applicability of the theory. So when it comes to the relevance and applicability of the theory, SDT remains highly relevant and applicable in today's organizational behavior context due to several factors. And these factors are listed on the right. We have the emphasis of SDT on intrinsic motivation, the focus on employee well-being, understanding employee engagement, and the ability of SDT to guide leadership development, designing effective work environments, employee motivation during crisis, and agile workplace practices. So some of the areas that I chanced across for further research, according to the 3 articles we will be discussing soon, are these areas. Based on the recent trends and gaps identified, several areas within organizational behavior require further research through the lens of self-determination theory. And that is employee motivation beyond autonomy, cross-cultural studies, longitudinal and mixed method research, leadership and volunteer engagement, the impact of organizational culture, and diversity and inclusion. These are the areas that I came across that I believe need to be researched further. So back to the articles I spoke about earlier, we are going to look at the first article that gives us a certain understanding of SDT. And this article is from Rosley et al. So the main points we chanced across from this article is that the article addresses the lack of comprehensive review on SDT in online learning contexts, particularly in higher education. The authors highlight the importance of integrating various SDT factors such as intrinsic motivation, amotivation, and types of extrinsic motivation beyond just autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And then lastly, there is a noted predominance of quantitative methods over qualitative approach, suggesting a potential oversight in exploring the full breadth of the SDT application. The supporting evidence of these authors or the research is that the authors conducted a systematic review using PRISMA guidelines, which enhances the credibility of their findings. And they analyzed 49 articles indicating a significant amount of literature reviewed, and this provides a strong basis for their claims about the state of research. The trends noted in the literature include the predominance of quantitative analysis and specific geographical distribution of research are backed by detailed statistics. The research utilize the quantitative method with a preference for structural equation modeling techniques used to their robustness in handling complex relationships. The sample size, the limited diversity in sample demographics may affect the external validity. That is, the size of the population used wasn't robust, wasn't a big one. It was 49 articles which were analyzed, and it might affect their findings. So the systematic review process enhances reliability through transparency in article selection, but the validity of findings can be questioned if essential qualitative insights are ignored. The paper also employed academic language appropriate for a target audience, maintaining an objective tone while discussing complex concepts. There are no overt logical fallacies in the main arguments presented. The authors construct a rationale for their conclusion based on evidence from literature. However, the arguments could be perceived as somewhat biased towards quantitative findings, potentially undermining a comprehensive view of the data landscape by undervaluing qualitative research findings. Overall coherence was generally good and logically connected, effectively guiding the reader from the identification of research gaps to suggested future directions. And the persuasiveness of the claim is strengthened by empirical backing and well-defined theoretical frameworks. Though the acknowledgement of the qualitative aspects might create a more rounded argument. So in summary, I think while the research is methodologically sound and presents valid findings within the realm of SDT and online learning, it could also benefit from a more balanced approach that includes qualitative insights. The strength in systematic review methodologies and substantial article inclusion are overshadowed by an overemphasis on quantitative results, potentially limiting the richness of the inquiry. Okay, so the next article we are going to look at right now is the article by de Klerk et al. 2023. And the main points from de Klerk et al. 2023 is that they argue primarily that leadership styles significantly influence volunteer retention through need satisfaction and frustration frameworks based on SDT. The arguments are well supported by empirical data collected from a substantial sample of volunteers across sports clubs, providing a practical context to assess the validity of the claims made. The study employs a mixed method approach that is combining quantitative and qualitative method in its assessments. Also, the data analysis techniques employed includes checks for reliability using Cronbach alpha and multivariate analysis of variance maneuver, which indicate a thorough understanding of statistical rigor, enhancing the validity of their findings through careful examination and potential confounding variables. The language used was clear and academic, which is appropriate for intended audience, while the authors successfully argue for the relationships observed between leadership styles and volunteer turnover intentions. There may be a logical fallacy in assuming a direct causal link without accounting for potentially confounding factors. The coherence of the argument is maintained throughout the study as the authors consistently link back SDT to its implication for volunteer management. So in summary, while the study presents compelling evidence to support its hypothesis, I think enhancing the discussion surrounding the breadth of leadership context and potential confounding variables would further strengthen its contribution to the field of organizational behavior. So lastly, we are going to look at Fauna et al. 2020 and the analysis of their work is that their paper posits or their research shows that fulfilling the psychological needs is essential for fostering high quality motivation among employees. Empirical support from existing literature is cited, suggesting a correlation between the satisfaction of these needs and positive work outcomes, such as commitment and well-being. The authors also emphasize that despite the theoretical groundwork laid by SDT, there is a significant gap in empirical guidance for leaders looking to implement these concepts in practice. The research aims to provide actionable strategies that align with SDT by directly leveraging experiences from practitioners. With the effectiveness of the research data, the research utilized a qualitative method and collected data through the free listing method, highlighting specific strategies that leaders find salient and relevant to their workplace context. The sample size was 51 leaders and a reasonable number for qualitative study. And the study utilizes salience scores and theoretical fit ratings derived from expert evaluations to quantify the responses. The paper also employs clear and concise language, effectively communicating the complexity of SDT and its practical implications. While the arguments are generally coherent, there is an assumption that the experiences of leaders from a specific context can be universally applied to all organizational settings, So while the paper makes significant contribution to the understanding of SDT in practice by utilizing rich qualitative data, it also faces the limitations regarding generalizability and robustness of the findings due to the absence of quantitative analysis. Future research could enhance the rigors of the findings by incorporating mixed method and examining the effects of strategies across varied organizational contexts. So finally, we get to the end of the presentation. And our conclusion is that self-determination theory emphasizes that autonomy, competence, and relatedness are fundamental for motivation, well-being, and personal growth. The theory also differentiates between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, highlighting the benefits of fostering self-driven engagement rather than relying on external rewards. It's also widely applied in education, workplace management, healthcare, sports, and technology. Organizations that will promote autonomy, skill mastery, and strong interpersonal connections enhance employee engagement, productivity, and retention. While SDT provides a strong framework, cultural differences, external constraints, and individual variations must be considered when applying it, And also, as work environments, education, and digital technology evolve, SDT must continue to adapt to new motivational challenges such as remote work, AI-driven learning, and mental well-being. And lastly, by fostering environments that support autonomy and competence, relatedness, and individuals and organizations can create a sustainable motivation, better performance, and overall well-being. These are my references, and thank you so much.